Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Fabulites. I got some questions for you. What opens with Miss Rebel biking, seeing a drug deal going down, and getting into a fight with the local drug dealer? And what closes with Miss Rebel discovering the dead body of April? If you guessed Revel, episode 2, My Brother's Keeper, you're correct. Look, I don't know if it's episode 3. My Cody says it's episode 2, so we're going to go with episode 2 and adjust backwards, but it's called My Brother's Keeper. Okay, so I think that I'm going to focus on characters and what goes on with characters. That's how I got it organized in my notes, so we're going to go with that. Okay, so Mac is Rebel's ex-partner and her lover. I think she's had sex with him a couple of times. My Brother's Keeper. Okay, so Mac has a brother. So we see Mac and his brother keeping each other. We found out in this episode that Rebel and her brother Malik had matching tattoos. Her said MBK and his said MSK, and that stood for My Brother's Keeper and My Sister's Keeper. And then we also have the dynamics of the police department. The officer Chucky, is he keeping his brothers as in his brothers in the police department, or is he keeping his brothers as in his brothers and sisters in the community? So anyway, okay, Mac, ex-partner, lover. Reb is in the police department. After her confrontation with the drug dealer on the street, she gets taken down to the police station for a statement, a witness statement or whatever. When she gets freed up by Officer Charles Chuck, then she kind of runs into Mac, or she walks by him. She doesn't acknowledge him. He confronts her for ignoring him. Then the next time we see him, he's in the gym with his brother, who recommends a psychiatrist or a psychologist for his brother to go to. So I might have missed one scene where Mac tried to come back on the police force, and Officer Chuck was like, you need to get some mental, evaluation before you can come back. His brother was like, don't go see the department person, go see this person I recommended. So he goes to this guy. He's like, I think that the department person is a woman. This is a white guy that he ends up going to, and he will tell me, the guy, gets him talking, or he gets to talking or whatever. And he tells him about a time when his brother took him to the bathroom. He was just a little innocent white boy wanting to go to the bathroom. His mother sent his brother with him to go to the bathroom. They're at a baseball game. She's a professional baseball player. And these 4 older black kids just out of nowhere start attacking his brother. And I'm kind of like, now, I don't know his brother well, but we've only met his character once. But his brother does not seem like... he seems like a provoker. I would be very surprised if he was attacked even as a child, unprovoked. And what are 4 black kids attacking little white boys for? That story didn't even make sense to me. But he tells this story to the therapist, who's like, well, maybe, what do you think it's about? And they work out this story that the reason that he shot at Rebel's brother is because he was traumatized. He was thinking about that event. He didn't want to be attacked, so he attacked first, or something, some bullshit. I don't know. And then later on, we see him talking to his brother, telling his brother that he went to see the therapist that the brother recommended, and that he told him the story about, the baseball game. And his brother is like, did you tell him the whole story? And then Mac is like, no, I didn't tell him about when, I came back with the bat and started beating their asses or whatever. And the brother's like, ha, 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 I never saw black people run so fast. So, I think it does a good job of... we're starting to see Mac as more sinister. I think in the first episode, it was almost like, oh, he's a nice guy. Oh, he just freaked out. Oh, it's a societal issue because society hates black people so much. He was just caught up in the... Why is the municipal enforcement car stopping at our house? Okay. So I thought that Mac was just, he's suffering from environmental cultural racism. It's nothing personal. But now we start to see him as a little more sinister and a little more conscious of what he's doing and having more of an agenda, which we still don't know what it is. But he does have a confrontation with Rebel where he's like, don't you think there could be some other story as to why? And she like, yeah, I think the other story as to why is that your ass is racist and you shot my brother. So, okay, that's Mac. Then we have this little segment with Officer Chuck Charlie, Charles, yeah, okay. And they know that he wants to be chief. He wants to be Chief Chuck Charlie. And so he's kind of been pressured that this is going to be a stain on his record. And I've never seen a chief, the guy tells him, with a stain on his uniform. So you need to fix this situation with Rebel. This is going to be a stain, on your situation. So you need to fix it. So he's getting pressure to toe the party line and to be his brother, his police brother's keeper. If you want to move up, you got to keep stuff under control, brother man. Not uncle, but Officer Charlie Chuck Charles. And so later on, we see him giving a statement to the press basically saying that the shooting was justified from what they can tell, and that he had a weapon, and that is not that's not true, and I think that he knows it's not true. So we saw him as kind of like a good guy who was in this tough situation, but now we're seeing his character develop in such a way. The characters are becoming more complex, so we want to like them, but we don't like that. So, it kind of makes us ambiguous about him as well. Hector, there's a small little segment on Hector where she runs into him at a bar. She's trying to, I think, chase down April, but she had mentioned to Officer Chuck Charlie Charles that she had been trying to get in touch with Hector. He hadn't called her back. She runs into him at the bar, probably the cop bar where all the cops hang out. And he's like, oh, I've been sick. She's like, well, I didn't find your Texas, the guy who her brother Malik was meeting up with in this gang database that you say. And Hector is like, well, it was in there last week. He's not avoiding her. It's been sickness. That's kind of all I can think of with him. With the dad, drinking dad, he's visited by some hustlers, a Reverend Do-Ride, who sound like Do-Right to me, but I think it's Do-Ride, but I'm calling him Reverend Do-Right, and Dealer Brim, head dealer. He's the head dealer in charge of the dealers in the neighborhood. He's the trapper of the traps. But they say that they want to have this rally, and they want Malik's father, drinking dad, to be a part of it. They want to get Malik's music out. He's touched so many lives. And they come in with a bottle of brown alcohol, and they give it to him. And drinking dad is just mesmerized by this alcohol. And when he goes to get some cups, Rebel runs him out. Get out of here. Don't be hustling my daddy. Go on someplace with that foolishness. So he is, like I said, he is type focused on that brown drink. And he, later on, Rebel confronts him and he says, shoot, she's like, when you drink, the doctor said that it gets you fuzzy, your brain, you can't think good. He like, I don't want to think good. I want my brain fuzzy. My son is dead. That's a part of me who's gone. It's not like when your mama died. I'm in grief, I'm in distress, and I want to be drunk. And then later on, Rebel has assigned her girl Chi to watch him. That's part of their private detective thing this week, is watching dad and kind of getting things set up and protecting him from these neighborhood hustlers. But Chi is watching. He disappears. Then he kind of jumps up on her car. I guess he knew she was watching him. Or following him or whatever, but he was following him. But she ends up having her, I need you to give me a ride someplace. She ends up taking him to the rally that the hustlers had invited him to. They're selling t-shirts there with Malik's image on it. They got a whole industry going there. They got their hustle game on. So they're talking about Malik, and the dad says that he wants to get up and say something. So he gets up and says that, the people had come to him about getting Malik's music out. And he said that we decided to, give the music and merchandise away for free today. So the hustler, the drug dealer hustler is kind of like, but what can he say? What can he do? Are they going to refund the people their money? Because it looked like they was making some money. So, we see that, the crowd at this rally starts to get kind of hyped up. At one point, we see the little young drug dealer that Rebel was fighting with at the beginning of the episode. He's about to throw a brick or a rock at the cops. The cops are in their riot gear with their shields, kind of gathering steam. Officer Chuck Charlie is there, and they're pressuring him. Lieutenant, we have to do something. Lieutenant is like, I got this, but they're steady. You can feel the tension. I think they did a good job of kind of showing the tension, because this rally is on the steps of the police department, so you can feel the tension between the cops and the people, and the crowd escalating, and little drug dealer guy is about to throw a rock and Rebel stops him, but he which I kind of feel like it's kind of funny, or I don't think it's really funny, but it's kind of interesting how y'all can shoot us down in the streets, but God forbid we throw a rock at a car. I mean, that's just going too far. But shoot me 13 times, that's cool, but don't let me throw a rock because I'm mad. And the dad says that he's frustrated. He's glad the cops are there. He's speaking. But the crowd is starting to get hyped. Things are we feel like there's going to be a confrontation between the cops and the people. And, at the same time that Rebel diffuses the young guy that's about to throw a rock that could have got something going, got something to pop off, the dad gets up and is like, look, if you can hear my voice, go on home. I don't want to lose none of y'all. We done said what we had to say, and so the crowd kind of disperses. So that was the dad. And I think that the last person that I really have to go over is Miss Rebel. April. Okay, so April Summer. Okay, I'll go over her at the end. Okay, so then we have Rebel. She's in the street fight with the local low-key dealer. She goes to the police station. She finds out that Malik's juvenile record has been released. And so some of the press have it, and I guess that's going to be part of the story. Of course, they start to do they immediately start to do a smear campaign, blame the victim, whether it's women getting raped or black people getting killed. It's always your fault if your ass gets raped or killed or whatever. Then we see Rebel. So she's so we find out from the reporter showing up at her doorstep or her dad's doorstep that this smear campaign is building, escalating, continuing. Then we see Miss Rebel with the coroner, and Malik has been shot 13 times. Malik was shot 13 times. And so the coroner starts to go through it. Like, the first shot was in the chest. Then the second shot was here. And each time that they're showing a shot, they're showing us a flashback or an image. And it's like Rebel is flashing back because she was there and she saw it happen. And it's like after 2 or 3, she's like, okay, enough. And it was like after 2 or 3, I was like, enough too. Like, are we going to have to go through 13 shots? It was like terrorism to me. I felt like I was being terrorized, so from what the coroner can tell, Malik didn't have a gun in his hand. And I'm confused because I'm like, well, homegirl, Miss Rebel, you were there. You saw what happened. We saw it through your perspective. He had thrown the gun away when they started shooting him. They just rolled up and started shooting on him because it looked like because he was a black person. I mean, but the one thing that the coroner does say is that he had cocaine in his system. So then now the narrative is turning into this whole thing of, he was hopped up on cocaine with a gun. But when they came and shot him, he wasn't like, I'm high on cocaine, I'm gonna kill you. I mean, if he was high or if he had it in his system, that's something that's secondary to the crime, because it didn't, anyway, I don't even know why I'm having this discussion, because most of us know how this stuff goes down, and it's not rational, and there's nothing that can explain, in a rational way why people are shooting people who are unarmed down in the streets. That's just some bull. That's some bull. So we find out that he had cocaine in his blood. And she finds out that her brother was using cocaine. Her father knew. He ain't nobody in this family. Angels. And my mother pointed out, now I didn't notice it, but my mother's like, Rebel always has a drink in her hand. And, in this scene, she had wine in her hand. And, so I guess that the whole family is probably dealing with issues or, of drug drug and alcohol abuse, or, whatever. So the coroner basically directs her to Daryl in ballistics. And Daryl, she knows, is somebody who likes to eat. So she shows up at Daryl's gig pretending that she's taking gumbo to somebody else as a thank you. And Daryl is like trying to hustle up on some of that gumbo. But we saw before that she had put something in the gumbo. So she's like, oh yeah, you can have some of this gumbo. I'm just going over here. He like, oh, I thought you was trying to get information from me. I can't give you no information. She like, ha 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 ha. He's steady eating the gumbo because he's a man who likes to eat, and she knew that. So he's steady eating the gumbo. Then his stomach gets upset. Then he has to go to the bathroom and ask her to watch The Office. So she promptly gets on the computer and I guess gets whatever information that she needs. Now I like that. I like when she's working magic in that way, and when she's, kind of making stuff happen and moving stuff around. That's believable to me, and that's credible to me. And I love when somebody has a skill or a talent, and I can, I might not have mastered it, but I could see how I could master it. In that opening scene, when the cops roll up on Rebel and the guy fighting in the street, and, they're like, well, we're going to take you down for questioning, and Rebel is like, well, I'll go down, but you're not going to cuff me. I'm kind of like, she already enemy number one or whatever. She an enemy of the police. So why wouldn't they cuff her? Why wouldn't they dog her out? I mean, that part was not credible to me. So I like that part. I don't so much appreciate. If I had some inkling of how she managed to negotiate that, and, I don't know if it's just supposed to be the force and the strength and the dynamism of her personality and character make stuff happen, but I didn't quite buy it. So that part, but I appreciate it. I like when we work magic in ways that if maybe I couldn't do it, but I could almost see how I could almost do it. That's powerful. So, she works her magic and gets her information from Daryl, the ballistics guy, and she finds out that we see a confrontation between Brim and Becca. That's Rebel. And that just shows that she's a badass. We see more of her badassery. I can't even remember what happened. That's just what I wrote down. But they're definitely establishing her character as, fierce and fabulous and a badass. Okay. Her husband comes by her house. So she does not live with her father, and she was in an apartment. I don't know where I got the impression. I might have read it someplace that she lived with her father, but she's moved out of her apartment to kind of like an industrial type space. Her husband, TJ, comes by. I didn't know if they were divorced or not, but they're separated, and he says it in that scene. That's why we're separated. He comes by basically to check on her. She starts to seduce him. He, gets the clouds, wait, I came to check on you. You always be doing this stuff. You never want to give the full dime. She never want to say what's really going on when she hurt. And he say, that's why our marriage, that's why we're separated. And she like, oh, we separated because your credit score is bad, because you trying to fix me. She kind of go in and kind of dog him out a little bit. So he leaves. And then later on, she shows up later on that night, or later on in the episode, she shows up at his house in the middle of the night, and he opens the door. He steps outside. So as soon as he stepped outside, I already knew that his girlfriend, his lady, whatever, was there. And she's like, oh, what's going on? My brother and my mother, and I'm in pain, and the cocaine, and I didn't know, and da-da-da-da-da. And then his girlfriend comes out on the porch and puts her hand on TJ's shoulder. That's her ex-husband. Then Rebel kind of walks away, and TJ is like, Rebel. And then Rebel comes back, and she turns around, but she doesn't talk to TJ. She says to the woman, we are still legally married. This is a married man. You are a side piece. That makes you a side piece. You need to get your life together before it's too long. And then before it's too late. You need to get your life together before it's too late. And then she leaves. So then we see a next scene, or another scene, we see Rebel with Chi, and they're kind of going over, on her little workboard, they're going over what they know about the case. So we know that Vaughn Bryant shot her brother 7 times. We know that Rafael Lopez shot her brother 4 times. We know that Brian Marquette shot her brother 2 times, and that April Summerdale did not shoot her brother at all. So that's what the information she's been able to gather from the coroner, I guess. And we find out also that she has worked at the department for 10 years. So I'm kind of confused. I mean, I don't so much care for her. Like, there's one scene where she says to Officer Chucky, you would do this for me. Please don't, tear my brother down. But I'm like, don't tear her brother down. Don't tear none of the people down. If y'all have done wrong, and he don't have to be just some perp on the street, whether he's some perp on the street or whether he's her brother, we all deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. So I feel like she's been working at the police department 10 years. And I don't know if she feels like she should have special treatment or her brother should have special treatment because they're related, or if she feels that all people should get special treatment or humane and dignified and honorable treatment because they're people. That part I didn't necessarily understand. I don't think it should be a personal plea that she's making to do the right thing because this is my brother and I'm rebel. I think she should be making a plea in advancing the cause of doing the right thing, because it's the right thing. I mean, that's just what I think. So that is kind of rubbing me a little bit the wrong way. I don't have a lot of appreciation. But okay, on to April Summerdale. She's a white woman cop who never fired her gun. The cops are mad at April. We see a scene where she's in the bar and she sits down and the other two guys move over. They don't want to talk to her. And Rebel comes up to her at her house. She like, April's like, what you doing in my house? She like, I see how they're treating you. They're not, you're not part of the pack because you don't have a pack mentality because you didn't shoot. With you not shooting, you did the right thing. But they want everybody to be a part of the pack to show that they're part of a gang. Like, we're our brother's keepers. We're, but see, she's a sister, not a sister, but a sister. So, maybe that influences how she processes things. But, she's like, you should be commended for not going along with the pack with this bull. And April is like looking at her watch, like, I don't really want to talk to you. I gotta go. She goes in the house. Rebel, I guess, is sitting outside, and then somebody shows up at the door, and I think it's Mac's brother, Jimmy, because later on there's a scene where she asks Officer Chuck Charlie what connection Jimmy and April have. Have they worked together? What's the connection? But they kiss on the front porch, so it's obvious that they have, some kind of physical relationship. And then the next time that we see anything having to do with April, Rebel shows up at her house. She knocks on the door comes open, and April is dead. So did Jimmy kill her, or the cop? Is Jimmy Mac's brother? So and then there's some dialogue where the two police officer brothers are like, one, the older brother is like, Jimmy, well, I'm glad you're back in the fold, and the younger brother is like, I got your back. So that was Rebel episode 2, My Brother's Keeper. Did you see it? Are you watching the series? I mean, I'm still here for a female unrealistic superhero, because I promise you I have watched plenty of movies and TV shows with white male unrealistic superheroes, and they're good for what they are. These aren't technically superheroes, but they're good for what they are. But it's not my favorite. Like, I mean, I like magic. But it's a special kind of magic for me that I just love and that gets me excited. So, but I'm here for it. I'm reviewing it. I enjoyed the episode. I would give this episode maybe a 7. And I think I would give episode 1 probably a 7 too. I mean, it's not the worst thing that I've seen. And it's not even really terrible. And I like the black characters. I like, the little afro puffs and the afro she does. I like the wardrobe being, it's beautiful for me to watch. I like seeing all, the black and brown people and, all of that. So, I give it a 7, maybe a 6.5. I don't know. But thank you so much for being here. The channel is Be Fabulous. You all one word. I'm Angela. Please share, comment, like, subscribe, and come back. I'll be back next week with Rebel, and, tomorrow with Walk and Talk. And, oh my gosh, Underground is tomorrow, and Shots Fired is tomorrow, and not Empire, but Greenleaf. So those, I should have those out by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I should have everything out by Friday. But y'all know I got a show, so I'm on my way to rehearsal in a couple hours. But we open up this Friday night. So, it's a lot going on, but we can always make time for unwinding with some good TV. So thank you for being here. Be you. Be fabulous. Be fabulous you.